What do Vancouver Canucks defensemen Zeev Buium and Tom Willander have in common? It's the idea that both of these guys would be Seattle Kraken trade targets. Take a look at what Rick Dhaliwal said on Oilers Now yesterday, speaking about the Vancouver Canucks and how they are interested in center Shane Wright. The Canucks like Wright. They approached Seattle about him, but the ask was very high. You know Seattle wants either Buium or Tom Willander. And that's it, that's the video. Hope you enjoyed this Finish Astros 99. And let's actually talk about this for a little bit, because I kind of chuckle every time I see Vancouver Canucks and Seattle Kraken related trade discourse nowadays, mostly because of the fact that Patrik Allvin is one of the main guys who exists in the Seattle Kraken organization nowadays. He's an assistant GM with the Kraken, and we all recognize the role that Allvin has held in the National Hockey League over the past few years. Man, look at that old headshot back when he was playing in Lekshands. But Patrik Allvin was always noted as a scout-first type of executive. During his time in Pittsburgh, he was the director of amateur and European scouting for many years. He was Jim Rutherford's right-hand man. And then as the Vancouver Canucks general manager, he still was Jim Rutherford's right-hand man, because we all recognize that JR did most of the heavy lifting. Patrik Allvin may have been in charge of more of the smaller day-to-day tasks. He had a lot of small things on his plate, which is why he didn't do the Quinn Hughes trade. Anyways, Allvin is a guy that has been primarily noted over the years for his scouting background. And even in Seattle these days, he is an assistant general manager, but you know that a lot of his responsibility with the team is going to be based on scouting. So seeing Vancouver go out there and express their interest in Shane Wright, it's only natural that Patrik Allvin is telling Jason Botterill, hey, we gotta get Zeev Buium. We gotta get Tom Willander. We gotta bolster up our D-core. We gotta grab these young, NHL-ready and primed defensemen, and that's gonna be the trade return for Shane Wright. Now, obviously, I'm sitting here talking about this. Is this a fair idea? Absolutely not. Is Shane Wright somebody that had all this hype, who has been very disappointing the past 12 months or so, worth a Zeev Buium or a Tom Willander? I would say no. Firstly, Wright is a center, so I get it, premium position, but comparing a center to a D is quite difficult when your center struggles in the way that Shane Wright has struggled over the past 12 months or so. I'll give it to you. His 24-25 was pretty solid. 44 points, 79 games played, 27 points in 74 games. This most recent campaign, though, am I a believer that Shane Wright still has the opportunity to turn his career around and become the 80, 90-point center that we once thought of him to be? Sure, I'd say that it's possible, and I would even try to take a bet on it if I was Ryan Johnson. But if the price is Zeev Buium or Tom Willander, hell nah, dude. Absolute hell to the nah, because Zeev Buium, if this guy gets top power play time, he is primed up to being essentially Vancouver's second coming of Quinn Hughes. Maybe not necessarily a 90-point guy consistently, but maybe a player who challenges for a Norris at least once in his career. Somebody that can be maybe the second best Canucks defenseman of all time. Tom Willander is essentially doing everything you need a bona fide top 4 caliber guy to do on the right side. Maybe he doesn't produce the most points. Okay, fine. But that was never Willander's game. If Charlie McAvoy was the comparison for Willander, like Craig Button has been hammering that nail down home over the past few years, then I'm very optimistic for what Tom Willander can be. The difference between these two guys and Shane Wright is that no Canucks fan looks at Zeev Buium's season And they say, oh, wow, he's so disappointing. He only had 12 points in 45 games. Like, yeah, sure, you would prefer the points to be higher. Tom Willander, for example, he had 21 points. So he did outproduce Zeev Buium in regards to strictly Vancouver Canucks points. Buium, though, I mean, if you add both of the teams that he played for together, he's at 26 points. Either way, that's neither here nor there. Zeev Buium is a guy with crazy offensive potential. Tom Willander is a guy with crazy all-around potential and some really great footwork, too. He's strong. He's good with the puck. There are a lot of good things to talk about with these two guys. You talk about the next generation's worth of Canucks into the future. Buium and Willander are going to lead the charge. They could be a pairing long-term. They could be a number one pairing if everything works out. And I'd say that the likelihood of that working out is a little bit higher than the likelihood at this point of Shane Wright fulfilling the potential that he still has. I'm going to say he still has it. It's there, but the likelihood that he fulfills it is not looking all too likely, especially after the season that he just had in Seattle. So, of course, props to Patrik Allvin for going out there and nudging the Seattle Kraken in that direction. Hey, guys, we got to go out there and get Tom Willander. We got to get Zeev Buium. We can't trade away Shane Wright for a win-now piece. It's got to be somebody that actually helps us out in the long term. And when you think about the Seattle Kraken and the draft that they just had, obviously everybody has been harping on Seattle because nobody wants to play there. From Artemi Panarin to Jason Robertson, the fact that both of these guys denied big money deals to play with the Kraken. Now, you've got Chase Reid, who could potentially go out there and transform that blue line long term. Honestly, in my brain, when I see Chase Reid on Seattle long term, I don't necessarily know if Zeev Buium has a place on that team. Like, Zeev Buium may be doomed to becoming like Sam Girard 2.0 to Cale Makar if Chase Reid and Zeev Buium are on the same squad long term, and Chase Reid ultimately ends up becoming what he could become. Anyways, Tom Willander, he plays a different style, different pairing as well, because they're both right-handed, but still, props to Patrik Allvin for at least trying, but that's not going to go down. The replies to this tweet share a lot of the same sentiment. LOL, the Kraken are insane. Wright would be a hard pass. There is something the hockey world knows that we don't. Dropped in the draft and very mid on the ice? Character? I don't know. But no thanks. Shane Wright is a reclamation project at this point, not worth anything close to Buium or Willander. He's worth a third and a bottom six player. Now, I don't know about that. Like, a third and a bottom six player is just barely better than Nils Höglander. And I get it, Höglander ain't that much worse than Shane Wright, but I still do think that Wright's long-term projection and the fact that he was fourth overall, he is 22 years old, does hold some weight. It does. Like, we're not going to pretend that if he was drafted like 31st or 38th overall, he would be seen as negatively valued of a piece as he is right now. It would be like, oh, well, he's a young 22-year-old guy and he just had a bad year. The fact that Wright's fourth overall gives a lot more reason to start hating on this dude and stopping the process of believing whether or not he's actually capable of becoming as good as he could be. He's only 22. If Shane Wright ends up actually having a great NHL career, I don't want to say I told you so, but I also will say if Wright ends up becoming just a total bum like Alexis Lafreniere without ever having that breakout year, then, sometimes it sucks to suck. But at the same time, I feel like Zeev Buium and Tom Willander, these guys are not going to suck. So that's just me. You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Seattle asking for Buium or Willander in the Shane Wright trade sweepstakes? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sign on. And bye.